Have you ever felt like someone was helping you so much that you slowly stopped existing in your own life? I have, and I wish I could say it was obvious from the start, that I saw the signs, that I knew where it would lead. But no, it began quietly, wrapped in love, in good intentions, in those warm, convincing words, "Mom, let us take care of everything for you now. You've done enough." And at first, it felt like a gift, a relief, a way to finally rest without worrying about bills, errands, decisions. I told myself, "You've earned this. Let them help," but help isn't supposed to erase you. And that's what it started to feel like. I used to schedule my own doctor appointments, decide which friends I wanted to see, go to the market when I felt like it. Small things, right? Everyday things. But now, I don't even know when my next checkup is. They handle that. They handle everything. And if I ask, they say it's for my good, that it's better this way, that I don't need to worry. But I do worry, not because I think they mean harm, but because I don't know who I am anymore without the choices that used to make up my life. You ever felt like that? Like you're still here, still breathing, still thinking, but your voice has gone missing in the middle of all that care? That's where I am. I hear phrases like, "We already took care of it, Mom," or "Don't worry, we've decided for you." And I smile, I nod, but deep down, I ache, because I didn't ask them to take over. I asked to be seen, to be respected, to be included. The hardest part is that I know they think they're doing what's right. I know their hearts are in the right place, but the result is that I feel more like a shadow in their home than a person who once had her own. I'm not trying to be ungrateful. I love my family deeply, but there's a difference between helping and deciding, between caring and controlling, between love and overprotection. You might think I'm being dramatic, that I should be thankful. But tell me, how would you feel if someone else chose your clothes, your doctors, your dinner time, your company? If your needs were decided for you without even asking what you wanted? That's not freedom. That's not family. That's quiet suffocation dressed up as support. And what makes it harder is that no one talks about this. No one warns you that growing older might mean losing your right to decide. Not because of law or illness, but because of love that doesn't know when to step back. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just my story. It's something that might be happening in your family right now, without anyone even realizing it. What you're about to hear may surprise you. It may sound familiar. It may even make you rethink what care should truly look like. Now, I want to go even deeper into this. And maybe you've felt this too. Maybe not in the exact same way, but somewhere deep inside, you've recognized that quiet shift when decisions stopped being yours, when people started speaking for you instead of with you. That moment where love crosses a line and suddenly, even if no one meant to hurt you, you no longer feel like you matter in the same way. If this resonates with you even a little, I'd really love to know. Leave me a comment, just a few words about your experience or what this brings up for you. Because when we share, we show others they're not alone, that this silent part of aging doesn't have to stay in the shadows. And if you're someone who's watching this not because you've lived it, but because you care, thank you. Your attention to stories like this is how real change starts, through listening. And if you've found something meaningful here, something that made you stop and feel, then give this video a like. It helps more than you know. It tells the platform that voices like mine still deserve to be heard, that stories like this matter. And if you want to keep walking this journey with me, these conversations about aging, autonomy, family, love, and all the things that make us human, then consider subscribing. This space was made for that, for us. Now, let's keep going, because what happened next revealed something even deeper. It started so gently, almost lovingly. My daughter said, "Mom, you've done so much your whole life. It's time for you to rest. We'll take care of everything now." And I believed her. I wanted to believe her. After all, isn't that what every mother hopes for? That her children will grow up, be strong, and offer a hand when the years start to feel heavy. At first, it felt like relief. No more worrying about which doctor to call, or when to refill my prescriptions. She made the appointments. She picked me up. She sat in the office beside me, nodding politely while the doctor spoke as if she already knew what I'd say, as if I didn't need to speak at all. Then it was the groceries. I used to love choosing my own vegetables, chatting with the cashier, taking my time down the cereal aisle, but suddenly, the shopping was done for me. It's just easier this way, she said, and I smiled. I said thank you. I told myself it was kindness. But when my favorite brand of tea stopped showing up, when I mentioned needing shampoo and was met with, "Oh, I already got some for you," I felt something tug inside me, something small but real, like a thread being pulled from the edge of who I was. And it didn't stop there. One day, I found out by accident that my old neighbor had called, and my daughter told her I was too tired for visitors. I wasn't. I was just sitting in the living room, knitting, waiting. She never asked me. She decided, for me. It's such a subtle thing, the way independence slips away, not in one loud moment, but in tiny decisions, always framed as protection. You shouldn't worry about that. Let me take care of it. It's for your own good. At first, those words feel like love, but over time, they sound like a door quietly closing and locking from the outside. And you start to wonder, when did I stop being the person who chooses? When did I become someone whose schedule is managed, whose opinions are filtered, whose voice only echoes softly in the background? I know my children aren't trying to hurt me. I know they think they're helping. And maybe, in some ways, they are. But what's been lost along the way isn't just control over daily things. It's the deeper identity, the part of me that still wants to make decisions, still wants to live with intention, not just comfort. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because what comes next isn't just about lost routines, it's about dignity. And if any part of what I've shared here feels familiar to you, write this in the comments. I still want to choose. That one sentence carries more truth than 1,000 quiet days. It's strange how the smallest things begin to change before you even realize what they mean. Like the way someone else now decides what time I wake up. It's better if you keep a routine, they say, as they gently knock on my door earlier than I'd like. I used to savor quiet mornings, slow coffee, long thoughts. Now, mornings feel scheduled, like I'm on someone else's clock. They mean well, I know that, but meaning well doesn't always mean being right. The first time I noticed something deeper was when a friend called and asked why I hadn't returned her message. I didn't even know she'd left one. My daughter had answered the phone, said I was busy resting, and forgot to tell me I wasn't resting. I was simply sitting by the window, waiting for something to feel like mine again. That moment hit me hard, not because of the missed call, but because someone else had decided what mattered for me. And that's a heavy thing to carry. I wish I could say these moments were rare, but they've become the rhythm of my days. Last week, there was a new pill in my organizer, small, white, unfamiliar. When I asked about it, my son said, "Oh, the doctor recommended it. It's good for your memory." But no one told me. No one asked if I even wanted to take it. I just found it there, quietly added, like my consent had become a formality. I don't think they even noticed how much that shook me. How not being told felt like being erased. And it doesn't stop at medicine. It's my calendar too. I used to keep a little notebook with birthdays, appointments, things to look forward to. Now my daughter says, "Don't worry about writing it down, we've got it covered." She enters everything into her phone, her calendar, her world. Mine slowly fades behind hers. One day, I found out we were going to a family gathering an hour before we left. No one had asked if I felt up to it. No one wondered if I had other plans, because they assume I don't. It's in these details, the gentle yet consistent removal of choice, that the real loss happens. I'm not angry, I'm not ungrateful, but I do feel like a guest in my own life sometimes. Like the person I've always been is being edited out of her own story. I still smile. I still laugh. I still love deeply. But more and more, I feel like I'm performing a role in someone else's script. A quiet figure in the background of a house that used to echo with my decisions. What no one talks about is how lonely it feels to be cared for without being consulted. It's like being protected by a glass wall. You're visible, present, even adored, but not heard. Not really. And there's a difference between being loved and being included. I wish they'd ask me things, small things, like which sweater I want to wear to the doctor, or whether I feel like soup or a sandwich. Because when those choices disappear, a part of your identity goes with them. And I don't want to be invisible while still alive. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because this isn't just about the surface details, it's about the quiet unraveling of self, the truth hiding behind smiles, the slow burn of being silenced with good intentions. So, if any of this echoes with something you've lived, or something you fear for someone you love, Write this in the comments. This feels like my story too. Sometimes, just saying it out loud is the first step toward reclaiming your voice. There's a quiet weight that settles on your chest when you start to feel ungrateful for something you never asked for. That's how it began to feel like I was the problem for wanting a voice in my own life. And let me tell you, that guilt, it doesn't show up with drama or noise. It tiptoes in, gentle but constant, until you start questioning your own instincts. Should I really be bothered by this? Maybe I'm overreacting. They're just trying to help. But there's a difference between receiving help and losing your say. My daughter says things like, "We just want what's best for you." And I nod, because I believe she means it. I know her heart. I raised her with love, but there's something about the way she says it, like my own definition of what's best doesn't matter anymore. And when I try to express that, I stumble. I shrink back. I tell myself, don't make a scene. Don't be that kind of mother. I've always prided myself on being easygoing. I was never the type to impose, to meddle. And now, somehow, that trait has turned against me. Because staying quiet feels like being respectful, and speaking up feels like betrayal. It's a strange loop of emotion where love, fear, and self-doubt blend until I can't tell the difference between being cared for and being controlled. The other day, I wanted to call an old friend from church, but my phone was missing. When I asked, my son said, "Oh, I tucked it away so you wouldn't get confused with all those scam calls." I smiled. I said thank you. But inside, I felt the sting of being treated like someone who can't be trusted with a simple decision, like making a phone call. I didn't say anything, because how could I? He thought he was protecting me. And maybe, in some way, he was. But at what cost? You see, what no one tells you about growing older is that the hardest part isn't the wrinkles or the doctor visits. It's the slow erasure of being treated as an adult. I still have thoughts, desires, preferences. I still want to make choices, if they're small. But when every choice is replaced by someone else's version of what I should do, something inside begins to dim. There's this invisible line between gratitude and resentment, and I walk it every day. I am thankful truly. I know there are so many who don't have the care I receive, but that doesn't make this easy. That doesn't mean I should pretend it doesn't hurt when my life is managed like a schedule on a fridge. I used to choose my own doctors. Now, I'm simply told when and where to go. I used to bake on Sundays with my neighbor, but they canceled that because I needed rest. I didn't ask for rest. I asked for connection. But how do you say that without sounding ungrateful? How do you voice your pain without making the people you love feel like villains? That's the hardest part, the guilt. It silences you before the words even form. It tells you to smile and nod and accept this new role you never auditioned for. And so I say thank you, when what I really want to say is, please, just ask me. Let me be part of the choices. Let me feel like I matter not just because I'm your mother, but because I'm still me, still alive, still aware, still hoping for dignity. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because this isn't only about aging. It's about a transformation that happens quietly, in the spaces between love and power, care and control. And if you've ever felt like your silence was mistaken for agreement, or your gratitude became a prison, I'd love to hear your voice. Comment down below. This makes sense to me. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because behind every act of help that strips away choice, there's often a story told from only one side. And that's what hurts the most. Not the help itself, but the way it arrives without asking permission. It's a decision made in the name of love, but love without consent feels more like control than care. I started to realize that what I was craving wasn't independence in the way people usually think, running marathons or making big life changes. No, what I wanted was something so simple it almost felt embarrassing to say out loud. I wanted to choose my own pajamas. I wanted to pick my own grocery brand. I wanted to be asked, "Do you want this?" before something in my life was moved, removed, or decided. But the hardest part is when people assume that love justifies everything, that if they're doing it for you, then your opinion becomes optional, that if the intention is good, the outcome doesn't need to be questioned. But that's not how respect works. That's not how autonomy survives. I've had moments when I sat quietly while plans were made around me, for me, vacations booked, without asking if I felt up for travel. doctor appointments scheduled without checking in on how I felt. Even the smallest things, like rearranging my room to be more practical, were done without involving me. And every time, I told myself, it's okay. They're trying. Let it go. But the truth is, I wasn't letting it go. I was storing it, carrying it in little pockets of my heart that began to feel heavy. Because here's the truth that often gets lost in these conversations. Autonomy is not the absence of love. It is an expression of love. Respecting someone's space to think, choose, and speak doesn't make your care weaker, it makes it deeper. And when you truly care for someone, you invite them into the conversation. You don't just act for them, you act with them. I remember saying to my daughter one day, I'm not trying to argue, I just want to be part of my own life. She looked surprised, even a little hurt. And that broke me because my honesty sounded like criticism when all I wanted was connection. I wasn't trying to rebel or make things difficult. I was just trying to exist with her, not under her. That's when I said something that had been sitting on my tongue for months. I don't want to be bossed around. I just want to be heard. The room went quiet. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't a complaint. It was just a truth too long ignored. This whole experience has taught me that love, when misdirected, can silence the very people it's meant to protect. And often, that silence is mistaken for peace. But silence can also mean surrender. And when someone stops pushing back, it doesn't mean they agree. It might just mean they've given up hope that their voice will matter. I haven't given up. I still believe that care and autonomy can walk hand in hand. That we can create a new kind of understanding where decisions are shared, not handed down, where dignity is preserved, even in the smallest routines. So if you're listening and this touched a place in your heart, maybe as a parent, maybe as a child, then you already know how fragile this balance is. You know how easy it is to cross that invisible line between helping and hovering, between support and substitution. And if this is something you've seen, or felt, or maybe never had words for until now, I want to invite you to leave your voice here with mine. Just a simple line in the comments. I just want to be heard too. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because there's a word for what's been happening to my and maybe to others like me. It's called emotional infantilization. It's when someone, especially an older adult, starts being treated like a child, not because they've lost the ability to think, but because others assume they've lost it. It's not always done with bad intentions. In fact, most of the time, it's wrapped in kindness, in routines disguised as care. But the truth is, when you're told how to dress, what to eat, when to sleep, and who to talk to without being asked, you don't feel protected. You feel small. At first, I didn't even notice it happening. It was subtle, like a draft you can't quite place. My son would remind me often to eagerly not to forget my pills, even though I've taken them on my own for years. My daughter-in-law would stand over my shoulder while I sliced vegetables, gently offering to take the knife, saying, "Let me help. It's safer this way." And I'd smile. I always smiled, because what else was I supposed to do? Argue over kindness, but slowly, the smiles stopped reaching my eyes. I felt myself shrinking, not in body, but in presence. There were conversations where I was spoken about, not to doctor visits, where my opinions were translated, rephrased, or even dismissed entirely, like I wasn't in the room. Simple decisions, like choosing what to wear to a family gathering, turned into debates about what was more appropriate for me now. The hardest part, no one seemed to realize what they were doing. They thought they were helping. They thought they were making things easier for me. But ease isn't always what we need. Sometimes, what we need is challenge, dignified. Challenge, the kind that reminds us we still have a say. That we still exist with thoughts, preferences, even stubborn habits. You know, there was a day I wanted to visit an old friend. Just a cup of coffee. Nothing dramatic. But when I mentioned it, the response came quickly. "Is that a good idea? What if you get too tired?" I stood there, nodding slowly, pretending they were right. But inside, I felt something crack. It wasn't about the coffee. It was about being seen as capable, as someone who could decide what was a good idea for her own afternoon. Emotional infantilization does something dangerous. It chips away at your identity in tiny, almost invisible pieces. You stop trusting your own instincts. You second-guess simple choices. You begin to doubt your own voice. And worst of all, you start accepting the silence that follows. It's easy for others to say, it's just love. But love that doesn't listen isn't love, it's control, wearing a soft face. And while I understand the fear that comes with watching someone age, I wish more people understood the fear of being aged by others, of being placed in a box you didn't ask to be in, of being seen not as a person, but as a project. What's stolen in this process isn't just decision-making, it's dignity. And when you feel like you're being mothered by your own children, something about the world flips in a way that's hard to explain. The lines blur, and the roles shift, but not always with grace. Sometimes, with quiet pain. That's why I believe we need to talk about this not in anger, but with honesty. Because it's not about blaming our children. It's about opening their eyes to a truth they may not see. That while we're grateful for their care, we're also craving their respect. That we want to walk beside them, not behind them. That we still know who we are, and we need them to remember it too. So if you've ever felt like your voice has been softened until it disappears, or like your choices were brushed aside for your own good, then maybe you'll understand what I mean when I say, I want to live, not just be looked after. Write that in the comments if it echoes something in your heart. I want to live, not just be looked after. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject, because there's something we don't talk about enough. What adult children really need to understand. I say this not with blame in my heart, but with a quiet urgency. Because sometimes love can become louder than listening, and care can start to override connection. And when that happens, even the best intentions can lead to painful misunderstandings. You see, being a parent doesn't end when your children grow up, and growing old doesn't erase your ability to think, feel, or decide. It just changes how you show up in the world. But somewhere along the line, many adult children start seeing their parents not as full people, but as responsibilities. They take over not always out of ego, but out of fear. Fear of something happening, fear of making a mistake, fear of not doing enough. So they do it all, without asking, without checking in, without remembering that the person they're trying to protect still has a voice. I've heard the sentence so many times, Mom, I'm just trying to help. And I believe it, I really do. But help doesn't mean control, and protection doesn't mean silence. What I need is partnership, collaboration, respect. There's something very different about making a decision for someone and making a decision with someone. That little word with changes everything. It means I matter. It means my opinions are still valid. It means I'm not just the subject of care, but part of the process. It reminds me that I still have a role in my own life, even if I'm not as fast, or strong, or independent as I used to be. Often wonder how many sons and daughters truly pause to ask themselves, am I deciding for my mother, or with her? It's a simple question, but it's one that can shift the entire dynamic of a relationship. Because no one wants to feel like a passenger in their own story, especially not in the later chapters of life, when so much has already been surrendered, mobility, energy, sometimes even purpose, to then lose voice. That's a grief that lingers quietly, under every smile and every thank you. I remember when my daughter changed my primary doctor without asking me. She thought she was doing the right thing. She had researched and read reviews, and yes, the new one was closer to the house, but I had built trust with the other doctor. He knew my history, my fears, my habits, and just like that, that relationship was gone, replaced by convenience and efficiency. Not cruelty, not carelessness, but assumption. That's the word that sits heavy in all of this. Assumption. It robs us of the chance to speak. It skips over conversations that could bring clarity and instead builds silent walls between people who love each other. What I want to say to every adult child is this: your parents are not just aging bodies, they are layered, complex, emotionally rich people. They still dream, they still ache, they still notice when they're being left out. And if you really want to help, start with listening, sit down, ask questions. Don't just tell us what you've decided, invite us in, because control, even when gentle, even when sugar-coated in kindness, still feels like erasure. And we don't need to be erased. We need to be seen, fully, authentically, consistently. There's a kind of emotional wisdom that comes with aging, a depth you can't rush. But that wisdom doesn't mean we stop needing love on our own terms. We want affection without condition, presence without pressure, support without silencing. So next time you schedule an appointment, plan a meal, or rearrange a routine, stop and ask, did I include her in this? Not because it's polite, but because it's human. And because the dignity you protect today might one day be the dignity you'll hope someone protects for you. Write this in the comments if you feel it in your chest. I want to be part of my own life. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because after all the weight, the silence, and the quiet erasure, there's something else that deserves just as much space. The possibility of reclaiming what was lost. Not everything, not the past, but the essence. The right to still be who we are. I started realizing that not everything had to be a confrontation. I didn't have to raise my voice or demand a revolution inside the house to begin shifting things. It could start with a small moment, a gentle pause, a sentence like, "I'd like to choose my own dress for the appointment," or, "Can we talk about which doctor I see?" And in those small requests, there was a spark of something that felt mine again. You don't know how powerful it is to be asked, "What do you think?" when you've spent months, maybe years, only being told what's best for you. And when my daughter sat down one morning, tea in hand, and said, "Mom, I never asked, do you like it this way?" I felt a shift, a subtle one, yes, but a real one. It wasn't just about the question, it was about the fact that she was finally willing to hear an answer. That's where change begins, not in grand gestures, but in ordinary choices returned to the person they belong to. What time I eat, whether I want to go for a walk or read a book, if I'd rather sit in silence or talk about my memories. These aren't demands, they're fragments of identity. And when those fragments are pieced back together, even slowly, something beautiful happens. I start to feel like myself again. It's not just about regaining independence, it's about restoring dignity, rebuilding trust, rediscovering connection that isn't built on obligation, but on mutual respect. And that process, that journey, is only possible when there's empathy on both sides. For me, one of the hardest things was expressing what I felt without making my children feel accused. I didn't want them to think I was ungrateful or harsh, so I began sharing through stories, like when I told them about how I used to walk to the market on Saturdays just for the joy of choosing my own fruits, or how I missed calling my best friend without someone checking my phone later. Those moments helped them see me not as the elder who needs managing, but as the woman who still holds her own life within her. And when they listened, really listened, something softened in all of us. I noticed they stopped moving things in my room without asking. They told me about plans instead of announcing them. My daughter even gave me a small notebook and said, "Write down anything you want to do this week. We'll make space for it." That notebook felt like gold. Not because of what I'd write, but because I was being invited back into my own time. This healing isn't perfect. We still stumble. They still forget sometimes. And I still hesitate, out of habit, to voice my wants. But there's a growing awareness now on both sides that I am still here. Not just in presence, but in personhood. My rhythms, my choices, my feelings, still matter. And that's all I've ever wanted. Not everything back. Not total independence. Just the simple, quiet right to still be me. Write this in the comments if that speaks to you. I don't want everything back. Just the right to still be me. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject, because if you've been walking this path, or even standing at the edge of it, unsure how to speak your truth, I want you to know that your experience matters. Your voice still matters. And stories like these don't just belong to one person. They echo across generations, across living rooms and dinner tables, behind polite smiles and quiet nods. When I finally found the courage to speak, to say that I wanted to choose again, to choose my clothes, my conversations, my own pace, I saw something shift, not just in how I was treated, but in how I carried myself. It's strange how reclaiming something so small, like picking the chair I want to sit in, can create such a deep ripple inside, because autonomy isn't loud. It's not rebellion. It's the soft return of dignity. This entire journey has taught me that silence can be heavier than confrontation, and that staying quiet to avoid conflict doesn't mean peace. It means suppression. It means erasing pieces of ourselves in exchange for comfort that doesn't feel comfortable at all. And slowly, that exchange begins to cost too much. So, if this story touched something in you, a memory, a moment, or maybe even a truth you haven't dared to say out loud, I'd love to hear from you. Write in the comments, "I just want to choose again." That sentence may seem simple, but it's powerful. It speaks for so many who have gone unheard. And who knows, maybe your comment will give someone else the courage to finally speak up, too. Now, let's keep going. Because there's still more truth that needs to be said. And if you've stayed with me until now, thank you. It means more than you know. These words, this story, they're not just mine, they're ours. They belong to everyone who has ever felt quietly overruled, lovingly controlled, or gently pushed aside. If something in this journey spoke to you, if it felt like I was telling your story too, go ahead and write in the comments, "This message was for me." That way I'll know you were here, and maybe someone else who's reading will feel a little less alone too. If you felt seen, or if this brought something important to the surface, hit that like button. It's a small gesture, but it helps this conversation reach the hearts that need it most. And if you believe that stories like these deserve space, if you want to keep walking calm esse canal, si inscrevi, aqui. There's so much more we can explore together.